If Brussels has its way, the whole atmosphere of Europe will change for the better. A new law will clean up the air that all Europeans are busy polluting. It's a giant piece of lawmaking, one law governing the continent from the Arctic to the Mediterranean.
There's a lot of other places.
One industry, two people.
Sorry, I'm going to laugh. Pulverised seawater.
We have 48 votes, and you have 11.
5 minutes, 10 would be 10 I could live with.
Civil servants from all 15 member states have spent countless hours in committees, arguing over the diameter of acceptable particles of dust, particulates, and the achievable limit of airborne nitrogen dioxide, NOx. Their experts have been working on it for 3 years. Now it's time for Europe's embryo democracy to join in the process.
Okay, Aaron, I'm off.
Anita Pollock, a British MEP, has been shepherding the measure through Parliament.
Hiya, what are you doing? What you doing, where are you going?
Same place you go.
Where am I going? Airport, I'm going to an air pollution seminar. I'm sure you're not going there. I'm sure you're not. Not many farms there.
The proposal began life at the Commission, the community's administrative powerhouse in Brussels. It'll become law when Europe's politicians and the all-powerful Council of Ministers say so. Parliament is the weakest of Europe's institutions, but its voice is beginning to matter more.
Parliament has a role in scrutinising legislation, so we have a balance of power to exert leverage on the European Commission by way of amendments to draft laws, and then really putting pressure at the same time on the Council of Ministers to agree the sorts of things that we've demanded in the Parliament.
The Socialist Group is the largest bloc in Parliament. Today they're deciding which amendments they'll back and which they'll junk, and if they should be tougher than the World Health Organization's guidelines. Although our camera is allowed in, the meeting takes place behind doors that are firmly closed.
In the back, that is still a closed meeting. That concerns this gentleman. Could you please leave the room?
The directive itself is very, very good as it stands, and I can't accept things that go beyond WHO health standards when they're going to be impossible for almost everyone to implement. I'm afraid with the Greens, with Mrs. Breyer, I have a real problem with all their amendments. They are mad. And I'm trying to talk through a couple that ISMA has tabled which are a bit strange. Mr. Blokland's amendments are weakening, and Mrs. Schleicher's, surprise, surprise, are weakening, so I can't have them.
I'm a little concerned when I listen to you that you don't want to go beyond WHO positions, because remembering BSE and other issues, health issues, I recognized in the past that the most conservative body I could imagine and the most laying back body could be the WHO.
We may fragment if we're not careful, but I think the lesson of BSE is trying to get all of the member states to go together on this, which is why I support Anita's tradition. Anything else is a luxury.
Okay, some of your amendments are actually weaker than the WHO's suggestions.
No, that's not true.
Yes. For example, how many times you can go over a certain limit of pollution during a week or during a year, which makes it actually higher.
Well,
and this is not a dream.
But not according to the information that I have been
No,
given.
but maybe the WHO have different information in different countries then, but because I have much lower...
There are some very complicated mathematics in it, because some things are to do with computing the difference between measuring something every 12 minutes here and every 10 minutes there.
We have to open the room in 1 minute. Anita, you have to be prepared that Ilona or Anneli might vote for their amendments. Or some others might abstain, so you just have to be prepared on those issues.
The Greens, whose mental health is apparently so much in question, are a much smaller group. To push through the tougher amendments they want, they'll need to form alliances with other groups, however ecologically unsound.
The British Labour proposed a value less strict than the Council. The Labours are so cowardly in their proposal, we have to go to another political group to get a bit further.
Yeah.
They dominate the Environment Committee, and
so it's also that we have to...
so they're puppets on the string of Mr. Blair.
Anita has the uncomfortable job of breaking the bad news to MEPs whose amendments she isn't going to accept.
Hi, Andy. Nice to see you. There we are. You don't. Your first one, the 250 on SO2.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something which is very desirable. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with everybody. It's very desirable, but from the experts that I've talked to, they say that they cannot achieve it. So on that one, you know, I'm going to disappoint you. I mean, I will naturally understand you voting for your thing.
Yeah, because I know it's realistic,
yeah.
because we have it.
Well, Sweden is very different to the rest of the
No,
European
it's not.
Union.
We actually have other countries. Norway, there's Finland, there's could
Yes,
be
but
Denmark.
there is Spain and
Yes,
Portugal,
it could
and
be
there
that-
is Britain, and there is Germany.
It could
and
be that
they
Britain
can't
sometimes
make
is a
They
bit
can't
different
make
from
it.
the
They
others
can't
as
make
well.
it. They can't make it. Germany
They
can't
can,
make
of
it.
course they
Austria,
can. They're good people.
Belgium can't make it. But you know, they really can't make it.
But
What
this-
you can do in Sweden is not what they can do in the rest of the European
Why
Union
should
at the
we
moment.
be different?
Because you're a very tiny little country with
Yeah.
not as much industry
With
as a
one
lot of
car,
other places.
one industry,
Huh? Yeah.
2 people,
Yeah.
1 donkey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a pussycat.
Okay, and a pussycat.
No, the next 2 is NOx, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So, you want to bring the deadline down to 2005.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's much tougher. Great, terrific. Portugal, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain and Germany all would have enormous problems meeting it. They cannot do it. So you want a piece of legislation that half the community can't do. Huh? They can't do it. They cannot reach it.
No, but you say they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The working groups
yeah.
are full of experts, says
Yeah.
they can't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
from all the countries. They've agreed that they
I'm
can't
going
do
to
it.
push for that figure anyway.
You can push for it, but I'm not going to agree.
No, that's quite
I
obvious.
don't mind in the slightest if you want to push for things.
You actually have to respect that we have a view and we know it's, from our point of view, it's possible to reach.
Well, you
But
can
then
reach
you
it,
have
of
to
course.
have, of course, you have to show some kind of ambition to do it as well, and not just try to make some kind of joke about it. We actually try to be extremely serious about it, and for us it's extremely important, both for the health aspect, and that should be very important
Well,
for
it
you
is,
as well,
it is.
and also for the ecosystem.
Well, we're not in agreement, but
No,
I hope
definitely
we at least understand each other's positions.
Yeah.
I didn't think we would be in agreement. I just felt it was important to go through it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think it's a typo and it should be 1,000 metres? I didn't.
I'm just going to try and see where it writes. What are you saying?
Yes, give him a buzz. He said he was going up to his office and he'd be here in 5 minutes, and that was half an hour ago. Ah, Dugga, great.
Hey.
Smashing.
Oh, the cameras are already here.
One radical proposal from Dutch Liberal Democrat MEP Dirk Ijsma would allow each member state to monitor the others.
Your amendments, nice and easy.
As usual, they're very complicated. but
Nice and easy, they're very complicated. I don't
intelligent,
trust you an inch. I am mystified, so you must
Oh,
forgive
you
me.
are
I
mystified
am
by
mystified.
me.
I am mystified.
First time in your life.
Yeah, I'm mystified. I don't understand what you're trying to do. It's amendment number 36. Are you saying here that, say, the Netherlands should run a sampling point in Britain?
Or Hungary?
Or
Oh, no, not yet.
Not in the... Are you saying that that should happen?
Yeah, one.
You are?
One. So that we
You're off
can...
your head.
We can control this terrible British people, and they can control us.
The Greeks, say, could have a sampling point in the Netherlands?
Yeah. And we can have 1 point
In Greece?
in Greece.
You're mad. You're mad. You're absolutely
I'm always mad, but...
I couldn't believe you actually meant that.
There are more than 70 amendments. Anita's backroom staff are busy judging which ones Anita will be prepared to recommend.
So that's the one.
Weighing one MEP's demands for fewer micrograms per cubic metre against another's for more time before the proposal becomes law.
This is Article 8.1.
It's very hard to pinpoint this one, just particulates and say, right, let's go really tough on them. Like, it is really tough.
I mean, we think we know PAHs are carcinogenic, but we don't know what proportion of particulates are PAHs and what are just kind of common garden dust. So I mean, to say all particulates are carcinogenic is a bit kind of alarmist.
We have to apply a precautionary principle because we certainly know enough to know that there is a link between particulate exposure and health.
Particulates are the microscopic matter in the air, ranging from dust to pollution from factory chimneys and vehicle exhausts. New measures have reduced traffic pollution, but the use of cars is set to double over the next 10 years. The Environment Committee of the European Parliament meets to hear Anita's report. What began as an abstract public anxiety is gradually becoming a political fact. Politicians and civil servants now have to face up to the reality of how their proposals will translate into law.
Mrs. Pollock.
Thank you, Chair. There are a lot of amendments on this, and it is rather technical. First of all, can I say that we are dealing with very, very tough legislation from the Commission. It's been the result of 2 years of working groups in which all the stakeholders were involved, in which there was a unanimous agreement. They are based on the latest, which is the 1997 WHO guidelines, and they're going to need, the Commission proposals are actually going to need a very, very big effort by the Member States.
The Commission are here to explain and watch over their proposal. They calculate that even as things stand, the provisions could cost industry and the European consumer up to £1.5 billion a year. They're anxious that Parliament doesn't press for even tougher and what they see as politically unrealistic limits.
Mr. Pereira, can you comment, please?
Muchas gracias, Presidente.
Thank you very much, Chairman. We in the Commission would like to explain at some length how this directive was prepared. We feel this is a...
Mr. Pereira, you've just used an expression which worries me not a little. You said you want to explain at some length. Can you try to restrain your enthusiasm a bit? Thank you.
Voy a explicar brevemente.
Well, in that case, I'll explain briefly how the Commission prepared this directive, because we feel it offers a model. The air quality directives, which are severe, as the Commission has presented them, will mean that in some cases, some European cities will have a major crisis because they will be obliged to take basic decisions on the development of their industries, traffic systems, and even in some cases they will have to impose reductions to control pollution in certain industrial installations.
Right, so we start the vote then. Recital 6A, that's where we have the first amendment. Has 21 from Mrs. Grannett's rapporteur is in favour. Those in favour of 21. Those against, abstentions, and that is...
Anita expects her amendments to be backed by the Socialist group, though the ecologically stern Scandinavians could prove awkward.
Well, Mrs. Hilton, 56 and 58, they're the same, really.
Well, we're just trying to get the message through that we have stricter values and we'd like to see others having stricter values as well.
Yeah, you're not going to change your mind, Mrs. Pollock, are you?
The Netherlands, Italy, Portugal, Germany, Spain and Ireland would all, and probably the UK as well for that matter, would all have enormous problems. I would love to go further, so would all the Green Movement. We all know that, because we know that traffic and NOx and all the fumes and everything are very, very dangerous. But frankly, Chair, they are absolutely impossible at this stage.
Let's vote. 56 and 58, which are identical. Rapporteur is still against. Those in favour, please. Those against? Abstentions? And they are not adopted. In the draft report as a whole, as amended, those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? Adopted. Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Pollock.
In committee, the power of the Socialist bloc has squashed the Green amendments and steamrolled through the 27 Anita proposed. These recommendations can now go forward to the plenary session, the full Parliament, for its approval. The ambitious plan to spring clean the air of an entire continent came from the Commission, Europe's civil service. Lynn Edwards drafted it. British by birth, Lynn's overriding loyalty now is to her proposal. It's Lynn who'll have to defend it against the assaults of individual member states, so a new recruit to the understaffed office is welcome.
Yes, I was telling Mike and Rupert your job description on the way back. It's to stop me having a nervous breakdown. I decided that was unfair. A lot of the time I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know what ought to be going on. And furthermore, if you want to get anything done, I can't tell you how to do it. And what's more, there's a lot of people who've been here much longer than me and they're in the same position.
Pete Betts, a British civil servant stationed in Brussels. Soon, civil servants from all 15 member states will gather to thrash out something that all their governments will agree on. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Pete tries to smooth the way through the technical jargon of dust.
What should we do? Go through the annexes?
You should say at the beginning that it's a global compromise and we should also consider the thing in their entirety, otherwise you get exactly the
global
same
compromise in order to try to bring on board all delegations. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for that. The Greeks came out to me in the meeting this morning on water and said they've got a problem with measurement, but they can accept the whole package, everything, the numbers, everything, provided we do something about small islands.
Other parliaments mentioned small islands.
Yeah, well,
an amendment.
I think it's worth our doing it. It's their footnote on page 26. In island zones, a number of sampling points should be calculated, taking into account the likely distribution patterns of ambient air pollution and the potential exposure of the ecosystems. I don't know what that means, but is there some way we can get something along those lines?
So yes, I'm sure we could manage to do something in council as well.
If you suggest strong sympathy for the Greek, if you can't accept the text as it stands, strong support for the Greek point, and then I'll say we'll try to.
Yeah, strong support. We can definitely do something.
The Council Working Group meets each week in Brussels. As well as their civil servants, each country sends an expert specialist along. For 4 months, the group has been struggling to reach a formula acceptable to all of them, with the chairman committed to the pursuit of compromise. Britain has the presidency for the first half of 1998, which is why Pete is in the chair. But while Britain wants the clean air proposal to succeed, it's worried that it won't, at least not at the legal limits the Commission has set, at least not without a host of exemptions or derogations.
I suggest we start straight away with the main business of the afternoon, which is the Air Quality Daughter Directive, Annex 3.
We don't see a compromise here. We just see a reduction of 10 micrograms in the annual limit. But we're so far away from each other in our positions that I don't really see what the compromise is.
I agree with the Spanish colleague, actually. As far as I'm concerned, this is not a genuine compromise.
Now, I'm prepared to be told that we've got it wrong, that we haven't struck quite the right note, or that there are elements of the package that need to be juggled around. But, as the presidency, you've got to try and strike a middle point. It doesn't just mean you take the position of one delegation because it happens to be a purist position that we should defend WHO standards, whatever they are.
Yo propondría.
I would propose, Chairman, that
high wind
after high wind events, we should talk about pulverized sea water and suspended particulates or natural particulates from dry regions.
Commission, would you like to comment, please?
The Commission had had a look at transport of natural particulates from dry regions, and you may be amazed to hear, could live with that. As to what was interpreted as, sorry, I'm going to laugh, pulverised seawater. Sorry, interpreters. I can't think how you could put it either. It's a wonderful thought. Well, the Commission at first glance is not very keen on this idea.
If I give the floor to other delegations, there will be a lot of concern that this derogation might appear to be getting bigger and bigger if we include pulverised seawater.
I'm referring to the explanatory note from the directive, the Spanish version, point 63, final paragraph. Perhaps there's been a translation mistake. I mean, it's me that's laughing now.
I'll offer Spain a deal. He can have the words in the footnote, and then we'll forget about the pulverised seawater. That's the deal I'm offering. Spain? Spain?
Fine, Chairman, we accept that. But we wanted to talk about resuspension as well. Resuspension and transport. I mean, forget about the seawater if you like, but resuspension and transport of natural particulates. Thank you.
Commission, what do we think about resuspension as well as transport? Does transport include resuspension anyway? Commission's just having a nervous breakdown. Are you in a position to respond on that, or...?
Right, the Commission doesn't... No, I think resuspension is something different from transport. Oh, by the way, it's sea spray in the original English, which was the original language. Thank you.
We spend 2 or 3 days a week with each other, sitting around the table, arguing. So it's human nature. After a while, you start to get... You do become friendly. So, yeah, we get on. We all get on well, and we even socialise a fair amount. We certainly have lunch together, have drinks together, because, you know, it's important that we know... Part of our job is to oil the wheels, to be able to know precisely where our respective member states are coming from. And the better you know each other personally, the better you can do that. The floor is open on that new redraft of Article 8.
Article 8 says the public should be told about levels of pollution. Simple enough, but committees have ways of making even such openness opaque.
The problem that we see with the current text is we see the text as putting an obligation on the member state each time there is an exceedance of limit values to provide a short assessment in relation to the health effects. In relation to every exceedance of limit values, we don't think that that is either possible or necessary.
Thank you. UK, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's pretty rare that I disagree with my Irish colleague, but on this point I do disagree with her. A short assessment of the effects on health is essential, because otherwise all you get is a figure, 50 micrograms per cubic metre or something. And people will not understand that. I remember in the old days on television, we used to have the temperatures in Fahrenheit. And my grandma understands that when it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it's a bit chilly. When it's 70, she can take off her woolly jumper. And when it's 80, she can wear her bikini. But when it says 20 degrees centigrade, she doesn't know what it means. And that's because she's not able to understand a simple figure. It's the same in this case. These are going to be new figures that people are not familiar with. They're going to have some sort of explanation as to what it means for them. This is information for the public. Perhaps you'll have a little symbol that If it's 55 micrograms, you can have someone coughing, and if it's 80, you can have them sitting down, and if it's 120, you can have them lying dead on the floor. But it is essential to explain to the public what these figures mean, because otherwise it really will be a simple bureaucratic exercise disseminating this information. It must be made relevant to the man on the street.
Let's indeed move on to Article 5. Again, the main change we've made here is to insert a derogation for winter road sanding in paragraph 5 at the request of Finland. Anyway, let's resume in the morning at 10 o'clock.
The Presidency's job demands charm and determination, tact and toughness, doing deals with individual states that will be acceptable to all.
Yes. Sea spray is pulverized seawater. Yes.
One should at least... Tonight, Pete has to find out what strength of feeling there is among the northern member states for Austria's proposal for tougher NOx limits. If there's a strong feeling, then he'll try to field a compromise based on what Austria wants. But some northern states with stronger winds to blow the pollutants away aren't happy. The Austrians are insisting on tighter limits for NOx, but will all the northern states share their determination? The Danish delegate doesn't yet have clear instructions from his own government.
That's your priority.
That's one of this. Maybe this is the most important value from all of this. We must be able to hold this value.
You can. The Commission clearly
not at the moment, but we will have to.
Okay. So what I hear from you is that you all three of you think that the annual limit value for NOx is the priority. And you have to understand we have to strike a compromise, and we have, for example, on the exceedances on the hour limit value for NOx, we have 48 votes, and you have 11. But what I'm saying is that you're focusing on your priorities, and it's the annual limit value for NOx. We should avoid a sort of purist theological debate about maintaining WHO standards everywhere, because that's not going to happen. We all know that the compromise is going to contain relaxations from WHO standards of some kind. Hang on. Tear yourself away a second, will you? And Anna Karin too. I mean, what you might want to think about overnight is this idea that I floated earlier of 50 micrograms per meter cubed for 2010, and then an indicative 40 in 2015 as part of a package.
Stage.
Well, as a second stage as part of a package.
And then taking into the review in 2003 as well.
Well, you could do that. Yeah, I mean, implicitly that would be the case, but that could be part of a. Because I think the 40 is going to be tough for a lot of member states.
I think the Commission mention it for 2003 as well, if we were messing around
we could do that.
40, because it is important for the Commission as well. Yeah. We certainly would look at it.
Would that be a step in the right direction?
We will reflect.
I think next time we're going to move the package back in your direction. But I think there will be a reaction. We made this package because we felt that was, the balance of votes was towards a moderate browning. And this is still an ambitious proposal, but I think we'll move it back towards you. But we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Go away for a short time.
Okay, let's move on to Annex 7. Greece, you have a couple of footnotes. Greece, please.
Now, concerning footnote 1 in the next page, page 26.
We have no objection to implement these standards with the 20 square kilometers in the mainland. On the mainland, we have no problem for the mainland. The problem is, what do we do with the 2/3 of our country? Island. If we implement these standards, we will have stations in the sea, finally.
Well, the Amsterdam Treaty, of course, does particularly raise the question of islands and the importance of looking at islands and accommodating them. So I certainly agree with the principle of what Greece is saying. I'm sure we can find a way of accommodating that.
Thank you very much, Commission. Fine. Well, we'll work up some text in consultation with the Commission and incorporate it in the text for next time.
For Lynn, the last 3 years have been an unremitting round of meetings with colleagues at the Commission, civil servants and parliamentarians, and the work doesn't stop when she gets home to her Brussels flat. After atmospheric particulates and nitrogen dioxide, there are more chemical dragons to slay: benzene and carbon monoxide. And time is running out. Petrol pollution gives Brussels a classic European dilemma: the choice between principle and price. The benzene in petrol is one of the causes of leukemia. Across Europe, estimates range from 500 cases a year to fewer than 1. The calculation the Commission has got to make is how much Europe can afford to invest for this unquantifiable return in health. Details of the proposal to limit benzene are being worked on in Rome, but ultimately benzene is part of Lynn's responsibilities. The Italians are a year behind schedule, and her office is badly understaffed.
I told you earlier that I'd been talking to Grant Lawrence, who said that it was part of his agreement with Jim Curry, that we would get an extra post to do CEO and benzene.
And the situation is that I will go to the benzene working group meeting in Rome, and when it comes to planning any follow-up to that benzene working group meeting in Rome, I will simply be honest and I will tell them that as things stand at the moment, nothing can be done till July. It's just draining energy and resources away from what we really need to concentrate on, and we can't do it properly. So it's a dangerous frittering away of resources if I try to keep the thing running.
Only in Rome lie the answers to two big questions. Why are the Italians so behind schedule? And what can be done about it? Recrimination is in the air.
Morning. Scott.
We haven't met.
Hello.
Yeah, this is the first time I've managed to get to one of these meetings.
I wrote a half a page, I think, describing, summarizing the chemistry. That's it. That's not needed anymore.
No,
yes,
I'm sorry. No,
I
because
brought it and gave it to you.
I have no notes in my records about. No, you have to trust what I am saying. Yes. I have no tracks of this discussion in ISPRA. I am not saying that you didn't send me something. So, what's the problem? I don't think there is a problem. It's not a problem of adding.
It's not going to be a major revision, I think. It's a shortening of the existing.
It's not going to be a major revision.
And trying to clarify what is the problem on the different geographical scales we're talking about.
Do you think that politicians will understand what is written in Chapter 2, for instance? I don't think so. Because this working paper, this position paper, is not addressed to politicians. This position paper is addressed to people who understand.
I certainly don't expect politicians to read all their way through it. But all the same, it is a position paper which isn't merely for the expert. It is, for example, for me. And I'm not an expert, though I'm scientifically knowledgeable and I think not stupid. So have me in mind as your audience and lead me through understanding what all these equations mean, because I am the person who will sit down and draft the legislation. And if there is something in here that you want me to take into account in drafting the legislation, then you have to make sure I understand it.
According to this opinion, we may suggest that the limit in this case would range between, let's say, 10 and 5 or 6 micrograms per cubic meter.
No.
Why not?
Not between 5 and 10. Below 5?
No, just a moment. In hot spots, we say. No, in hot spots. Everywhere.
Lynn brings the bad news from Rome to Grant Lawrence, her boss back at the Commission.
Yeah. I went to Rome last week.
Yeah.
For the meeting of the working group. I have to say it's pretty appalling. No updated papers were received by anybody until the morning of the meeting.
No, there are updated papers then.
There are updated papers. It's not finished.
So, what do you want from me?
A decision from DG11 on exactly how far they want me to push.
For what?
For a really tight limit value on benzene.
Yeah.
The point being that we know we're dealing with one of the nastiest diseases we know about here. It's a very low probability disease.
What disease is
It's
it?
leukemia.
Oh.
But concentrations of benzene are going down enormously because we're already doing a tremendous amount about benzene. It's a carcinogen, so you can say no level is safe, the usual thing. The risk estimate associated with benzene is extremely uncertain. Doing more about it than is already being done, getting down to 1% benzene and so forth, is likely to be enormously expensive. So we're going to have a big battle between the every last molecule that possible must be got rid of school, and the we're already spending so much, and we'd only save 3 more cases per year. It's going to be a horrific argument, so we have to decide within DG11 how far you want me to push this.
Every month, Parliament packs its bags in Brussels and travels to France for a week's session in Strasbourg. This satisfies the French, is an inconvenience to everyone else, and estimates of the cost range from 180 to 300 million pounds a year.
Average week is Brussels Tuesday morning early, home Thursday night late, if you're lucky. Sometimes it's out to Brussels Monday, and the rest of the week in the constituency. But 1 week a month we have to go to Strasbourg for the whole week, so it means out Monday, back Thursday or Friday. And that really does take it out of you.
On May the 13th, there's a heat wave. A band of high ozone stifles Europe. In some cities, people are asked not to use their cars and add to the smog. In Strasbourg, Parliament meets for a plenary session, a session of the full Parliament. Aspiring parliamentarians have chosen an apt time to arrive to vote on the clean air legislation. It's in the middle of an ozone alert.
Oh, what's this one here?
MEP Anita Pollock is the rapporteur responsible for the proposal's parliamentary progress. Today she must present her report to the Assembly.
Lovely.
And these limit values are based on the WHO's guidelines.
The Commissioner, Rit Bjerregaard, will be speaking too. Lynn and her colleague, who like his Commissioner is Danish, check the text Bjerregaard will deliver to Parliament in her native tongue.
Therefore cannot accept Amendment 28.
Right, you can accept in principle.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
3, 4, 6 and 10 partially.
She's doing 3, 4 and 6 and 10 partially.
There was a big problem with ozone this morning.
Yeah, there's an alert. I think they were trying to get some facts.
Anita, like any politician, could talk for hours on the topic, but the rules won't let her.
5 minutes for explaining all the amendments, my attitude to them, as well as what I'm doing, and you know, it's just hopeless. I've just been trying to slash what I'd written to get it down. You know, 5 minutes. You know, 10 would be 10 I could live with. Ecosystems.
Anita has to make a dramatic cut in her carefully prepared text.
3:30. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.
Today, both Lynn and Anita are here from the Commission and Parliament. Two Britons at the heart of Europe and from its opposite poles. It should be a perfect day for what's on the agenda, environmental legislation. But the plenary session is full only in the technical sense.
We have one report by Mrs. Pollack on limit values for sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter and lead.
President, experts suggest that at least 40,000 people across Europe suffer from the effects of air pollution, and those who have respiratory ailments are at risk of early death from the dangerous cocktail of air they breathe. It exacerbates the suffering of the vast numbers of children who have asthma, and I hope that regional and local authorities will be able to implement the very, very strict limit values which are laid down. I commend the directive and the amendments to the House.
Parliament is not sovereign in Europe. The Council of Ministers, domestic politicians from each member state, has the real power. Even the Commission, the Brussels bureaucracy, can choose which of Parliament's amendments it's prepared to back. In Strasbourg, Europe's democratic deficit is much in evidence.
Commissioner Bjerregaard.
Thank you
very much, President. To start with, I want to thank the Environment Committee, and particularly the three rapporteurs, Mrs. Pollock, Mrs. Hulthain and Mrs. Hautala, for the tremendous job which they have done. 1, 2, I can accept the principle, 3, 4, 6, 10, in part, 12 and 14 in principle, amendments 29, 30 and 31, however, are quite unrealistic, and the Commission therefore cannot accept them. So I think that what we can say, to sum up, is that this is an important step which should lead to cleaner air for Europe's people and for the next century.
Next day, Parliament will vote on a raft of legislation, clean air just one of many.
Colleagues, we still have several votes to go through. The remainder of Article 7 and down to Article 9, 5 amendments from the Environment Committee.
Here, all MEPs vote. By convention, each political party has a list recommending how their members should decide. The Socialist MEPs vote from a list drawn up for them by Anita Pollock. For the avoidance of doubt, she also employs a crude but effective semaphore.
Lapses as a result, it lapses. I put to the vote the Commission draft as modified in favour. Those against, abstentions, it's carried. And we take the draft legislative resolution, no amendments, in favour, against, abstentions, it's carried. Now the report by Mrs. Hautala.
Parliament has voted. All the Green amendments have been defeated. All Anita's have been accepted. For Lynn, it's the culmination of 3 years' work. From proposal to parliamentary approval in 3 years is Europe's equivalent of legislative greased lightning.
Yep. Well, it isn't all over with me.
I was only surprised on
I've got council tomorrow morning.
Yeah, right.
Right, see you back in Brussels.
Yeah. Yeah. We're celebrating tonight.
Yeah. Let's have some sort of celebration. Yeah, celebration's the right word. Let's have some sort of celebration. Don't lose touch just because you're retiring.
Civil servants from the UK presidency now assess what shape Lynn's carefully drafted proposal is in after Parliament has sharpened and tightened some of the limits and targets. In principle, the Brussels bureaucracy can override what Parliament suggests. But Europe is a delicate power game. In a community that survives on consensus, neither Commission, Parliament nor Council of Ministers relishes confrontation.
Do you want today or do you want to leave it till next week to present the Parliament's opinions? Parliament's amendments, rather?
Would it be helpful to let people know what...
I think it would, if you're in a position to do so. It's just
I can do so. I have here a little table of what the Commission is accepting in principle.
Thanks, Chris. Do you know where we are today?
There are just 6 weeks to go before the Council of Ministers sets the seal on this legislation. Pete and the working group have achieved common position on all but 2 minor points.
I keep telling myself what a luxury and a privilege it is,
That's
to
right.
be in the presidency, to enjoy it while it... But...
You'll miss it all when you finish.
Yeah, I will. Apparently, everybody, every time I think I'm really knackered and tired, then people tell me, oh yeah, but it's really depressing when you end.
Your life will be empty when you have a
Exactly.
common position on so many things.
Exactly.
You won't be able to...
And I spent so long getting the common positions, I've got no mates left, so I'll have no one to celebrate it with.
Yes.
That whole life is so rich, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Constantly new things around the corner.
Next week, the benzene proposal is challenged.
I'm not sure, as a citizen, I will be ready to pay quite a lot of taxes more.
The Commissioner has doubts.
We might not be able to get it through in the Commission.
And a new proposal is born.